Hello, hello. We are live, baby. We are live, baby. Okay, guys. First off, thank you for going through all that crap. What the hell that was? I am name is Christ169. I'd like to be the first to thank you for watching my video. Welcome to the video. We're gonna try a thing called gaming history. We're gonna go down back of days gone by and figure out what has changed, if anything changed at all in history. This episode is gonna be about the video game crash in 1983. You probably watched it. If you're old enough, like I am, I'm 38. If you're around your 30s, mid 30s now, you might have went online and saw maybe G4, icons talked about it in great detail. Gaming historian, many people have talked about it over the last 10, 20 years, and you might have not really known what really happened. And if you're not 30, if you're not in your late 30s or in your 40s, you won't have a clue what the hell I'm talking about. Like gaming crash. And we mean like when my Xbox One PlayStation freezes up? No, not that gaming crash. The gaming crash is to me is when the gaming itself collapsed. The industry went bye bye. That is what the gaming crash was. And I'm gonna bring up some literature here about it, and I'm gonna read verbatim, not verbatim, but reading, what it was. And uh, um, and what it was though, and I gotta brought up the Wikipedia page for it, and I'm gonna read a little bit. I'm gonna read a little bit to you here about what it was. Now, in the '70s, late '70s, Atari came out with a lot of good. Damn it. Didn't damage that or anything. Sorry. Came out with a lot of, it's all live. There's no video editing here. Came out with the Atari 2600 ABS 2600 we know today. The Atari system came out with that little wonderful toy, and it was known as Atari Shock. In Japan, you have to understand that when the video game crash happened, many things have happened. And you might ask, what caused the crash? There's many different variations of a crash. The biggest was right here. It talks about um, licensing for Space Invaders and Tato became Console Killer apps. You have to understand that when 2600 came out, folks, it came out with its own self. Then you had ColecoVision, Gemini, you had Intellivision, you had many consoles come out, right? Many consoles, but maybe up to 15 consoles. Half of them you didn't even know, and half of them you weren't gonna know. Hell, half of them I don't even know. But that being said, though, that is what the gaming crash was. The gaming crash wasn't intended to be a viral type of thing where if you looked at certain things, if you looked at what was really going on with the gaming crash of 1983, it was more than just, okay, well, let's put this, on here and do something like that, right? The gaming crash of 83 was, in a sense, a problem with many different realms. What I mean by that is, you had many people trying to get into the video game market. You had Mattel, same with Barbie. They created a console. You had Chuck Wagon that was from Prina Dog Chow. If you brought in two Bruce purchases, you got like a free, a free game of Chuck Wagon for that um, for doing that. Um, and that being said, though, and he had games like E.T. and Pac-Man that were tremendously. Now, Pac-Man sold a lot at pre-orders, but Pac-Man was not the biggest thing that killed it, and E.T. wasn't either. What really killed the gaming crash of '83, he had to go back to when uh, Bushnell was no longer in charge. He sold the company to Time Warner, who had suits and ties. Atari was mostly smoking weed in conference and in gaming room, conference rooms, come up with ideas, make games. People were getting high, coming when they want to, and sex ran wild like Hulkamania. It ran wild. People went home with everybody. Everybody went home with somebody in the office. And I think it was John Tranton, who it was the owner, or the owner, but the person that was in charge of uh, was in charge of the video game division, because Time Warner, Warner Communications bought for $25 million because others started running out of money, and because of that situation, you had people with suits telling people who were smoking weed practically during the day of what to of how games to make. And when they created games like Pac-Man, they only had 6 weeks to make it. Pac-Man and or ET, both of them actually. Um, and the biggest problem with both those games was ET is playable. If you have instruction manual, you can play ET, and ET ain't very hard to get into play. But you have to have instruction manual to play. Without it, you're lost as all hell. I beat it. I was a young kid when I beat it. All you gotta do is find certain parts ET needs, and you go away. ET phone home. It's a real simple game. Just created in I think 6 weeks or less than that. It was programmed very very fast because once again, um, Atari gets the best licenses, but it makes the best games, the worst games. Same with in Empire Strikes Back. I think Mattel got that one, or somebody got that one, and created the terrible game. Well, it wasn't terrible to a lot of people, but it was terrible to most of the diehard gaming diehards out there. It was terrible. But see, they get the best, like James Bond. They get the best titles, but they create the worst games because Atari programmers weren't there anymore. Four of them went off to create Activision, that we all know is Call of Duty. During Call of Duty, you're playing Call of Duty. Back then, they weren't over Call of Duty. They made games like Pitfall and games like that, and they got credit for the games. And the president of Atari, who was actually the person in charge, who was in charge of the video game division, and Time Warner told the four creators that you are no more important than the person who putting the game together on the assembly line. So essentially soured the area, so to speak, with why should I work here if I'm get credit for my game? Then they went off and created Activision. Started selling games in 2600 freely. Of course, Atari sued and lost. Then the floodgates opened up, and that was one of the reasons why you had a lot of bad games. Activision made good games. Now, some people made games in their rooms. Literally, I've heard stories about this, rumors about this for years, decades. People will program a game, program it, and they go to a gas station, offer, I don't know, they give me 50% or 10% or whatever it was to the gas station shopkeeper, the manager there, or the owner owns it. In most cases, they didn't take anything. Put it on display, they sell it, they get some money off it. Hey, not everybody, not everybody's a game, creator now. Of course, those guys could have gone off and worked for, Microsoft, Nintendo by now, or Sony. We don't know. Some people could have found their calling. Could make some good, decent games, sold very cheaply, and then now they're older and they probably go to school and got, degrees in gaming and probably own a division, their own companies, probably. But it didn't happen a lot. When you have games like Chuck Chuck the Chuck Wagon from Prima Dog Chow, and you have a lot of educational games that has nothing to do with the games, a lot of knockoffs. You have ColecoVision that created a attachment to put on their system to play 2600 games. I'd be like the Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, of course on this Switch can run this, make an attachment to plug into the Switch ports to play Uncharted 4. I don't think it will even run on the Switch, but or on the One X or the original Xbox for that matter. It'd be like you go out there and buying a plug-in attachment from a PS4 mod to play PS4 games on your Xbox. Can you imagine the firestorm Sony would do? Sony would curve stomp Microsoft curve stomp Sony in the ground. But back then, it was a wild, wild west. You had those kind of things, and that's what really killed a lot of market was oversaturated, like a lot of rain, oversaturation. People had too many options, too many things to choose from. Like, we should get a gaming console. What was the question? The question was, what console should we get? Because most of the games, like in television, ran better than Atari games. Some of the television games, television games, on their own console, looked better than on the Atari 600. The clones, like the Pac-Man clones, the Space Invader clones, look and ran better on those consoles than on the Atari 2600. Because all ColecoVision did, Loffield did, is just make Atari 2600 clones. Because all Atari did was take computer parts and cram them together, and there you go. So they couldn't sue for licensing. It was no patent because it was using parts that are available for anybody to use. So I could have gone out there if I had any clue what I was doing and bought a bunch of PC parts and created my own system. And actually, I think ColecoVision and Television were clones, but they're better made with a little better parts. So the games looked a lot better. Basketball on television played like 4 players, where and Atari like 2 players, 2 people on the court. So a little real basketball and baseball too. So that there being said, though, we had a broad field of things, and you had bad games like E.T. and Pac-Man that was stripped down. The dots were sort of with dashes. Pac-Man moved like this, kind of like a clunky movement. He didn't move like this. He moved like this, clunky little. If you've seen the game, it's like it goes like this, up and down, up like he's this, mechanical machine, not wobble wobble wobble. It's like kind of thing. And the noise wasn't there, and the ghosts fade in and out. It was really bad. It wasn't, and I played it. When I was a kid, I thought it was great. I'm being a little scrub back then. My sister played it in the arcade. Even though he played the original one, the real version or better version. But yeah, guys, it was a really weird time. And in '83, the writing was on the wall. But Bushnell talked about, hey guys, you guys need to start preparing for the Atari 2. The 200 will be coming around. And they didn't see it. Bushnell talked about in Game Icons, the crash, that people didn't see it. People didn't think that this bubble burst. Because we have to understand, though, when the gaming crash happened, what's going on in stock and gaming was going down. Gaming was like $2-3 billion in revenue. It was matching and overseeing box office revenue, and has been for the last 30 something 30 years now. So gaming has taken over. It's no longer a fad or you have no life. It's actually accepted by a lot of people, including people who don't like gaming, as being something you can voice your opinions and whatever nonsense and political whatever nonsense you want to put in there. And it does have that a lot nowadays in gaming. You have games out there where you have Last of Us 2 supposedly has a lesbian couple that really care, not really. Want to play the game. Shut, leave me alone. I know I want to escape reality and not be forced into it again. You know what I mean? So that's why I play video games. Well, I play video games to have fun, escape reality for a little bit. My reality is not terrible, but a lot of people's are. They want to escape and just chill out for a while. And what's going on with that is though, you have this issue of okay, the games are out, the game's crashing. Let's jumpstart the market by releasing the 5200. A better console, the games look better. The problem is the controller was broken. It oxidizes plastic and it oxidized. You have to keep cleaning it every couple of days to play it for a couple hours or a couple of days anyway. And of course, people are like, whoa, 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 wait a second. I had the same TV 25 years, record player 25 years, same car for almost 15 years. You're telling me after 2, 3 years I got to take this 2600, trade it in, and get a new console? They didn't understand it back then in the 80s. And even in the 90s, parents didn't understand it. We understand it now because it's called, it's called evolution of gaming. Things change. Well, back then in the 80s, mid 80s, that didn't happen. If you were Daddy Warbucks kind of money, you didn't care. You just, you know, little, Jody wants a new console. Go buy him a new console, whatever. Well, if you're living in money in the mouth, that console's going to last you more than 2 years, a decade practically, in some family circles. But didn't happen, and it crashed. And people thought gaming was a fad until a little plumber came around. In 1985, Nintendo took their stab at the game market. They wanted to release it in America. They tried New York first. They didn't sell out of all their consoles, but they had a good enough run where they released it worldwide. But how they did it though, they did it by taking Rod the Robot and putting him in it as a toy because the American people didn't want to know gaming. Gaming was a fad. Oh, it's toy. Okay, it's toy. It has a console. Then they slowly got away from it and took it out. So you know what? It's a gaming console. Ha ha. Kind of thing, right? So now you have Nintendo in, and they saved gaming, but the practices from the Wild Wild West was not going to be tolerated from them. They had an NX chip that locked out all non-games. Atari, the big opponent of that, and created a different company because you only allow 5 games a year released on Nintendo. So a lot of companies like Activision and Square Enix, they goes around, they were around, and uh, Konami was. They created sub companies to create 5 more games, and they create 5 more games to win a company too, so they get more games out there. So they created sub companies of a company of a company. And this is a little top topic, but this is kind of foundation was the big three thing was first off, a lot of bad games got out there. A lot of people didn't know what good games were because as no quality insurance test purposes. Nintendo came out with that, and it's still carried on today. The games were all terrible, and if and later on that time, in the crash time, yeah. Before that, they were great. If you're gonna go to the store Christmas time and buy Johnny one game $40, and you get like 100 games and for a bin for $1, I'm gonna buy these 20 games in the bin here for $1, and then more Christmas gifts open up. Parents didn't think about that. About whatever they gave Johnny whatever, and Johnny got whatever for Christmas he got for Christmas. In most cases, he was very happy and played it and didn't really care because you use imagination anyway. Atari games. Um, Two, third party development really hurt Atari and a lot of the gaming companies because anybody can make games. And once again, it goes back to number one, no regulation. The regulations weren't there. People did not have quality assurances. They made when they made Chuck Wagon from a Prima Dog Chow company made a game. You had games from different things. You had games from everybody. Tom, Dick, and Harry make a game. They made a game. It wasn't okay. Well, we'll make a game and work for an established company like Sega or okay, Sony's brand new, but we're going to hire some players. No, they went out there and made the most weirdest games and put them out there. And that goes back to the quality assurance. But number two, third party hurt a lot. And the number one thing here is, and number three, number one, call it, in my mind is three, two, one. Number one is too many consoles. The American people back then were not obligated to sit there and wonder. 2600, ColecoVision, Gemini, this thing, that thing. Let's give them one of the damn things and call it a day. Now you have three of them. Well, if you don't count the Stadia and PC and handheld, if you count major consoles, you have PS4, number one, Nintendo Switch, number two, and Xbox S, X, whatever you call it, number three. You have the top three people there. And you have, the Stadias and the crap like that come out, the fad consoles come out. And the Steam machines that they put. It's a good concept though. Steam machines are good concept, and I'll make a video gaming history on Steam machines, the rise and fall of that one, so I have an idea what the hell happened there. But guys, it's really about it. Um, the game in closing on this first episode here. The gaming crash taught us a lot about gaming. It taught us about the do's and don'ts of any company. And GameStop is learning that, as well as Toys R Us, Circuit City, and the Radio Shack before it. You don't give your fan base too many options to go elsewhere or buy consoles elsewhere. Like I said, the ColecoVision had a damn attachment. You can play 2600 games on it. Way too many options. You have to bring that down a couple pegs and really understand, we need to keep it right here. And that's why companies like GameStop are going out of business, Toys R Us, and things like that. I mentioned because they're having a retail crash right now, folks. We're having a retail crash where Walmart is battling for their lives against a company that doesn't even exist on paper. It's on paper and online called Amazon. And just like the Atari system and the ColecoVision and 80 crash 83, we could have a retail crash in 2020 or 21, whenever it happens, because people are not going to take too many options and not good customer service or a lack of customer service or whatever it is. See, back in that time, they can call the Wild Wild West time, and it was the Wild Wild West of gaming. You had companies making attachments for consoles that they didn't even own that were open to anything. And you can buy a ColecoVision that had better game graphics and play 200 games on it. Now, they run better. I don't know for sure they can run the same, I've heard. But that, folks, in closing, is what really drove the rocket of the gaming crash to the moon and came straight back down and boom, because it went up in the air, but without a guidance chip and guiding itself, quality assurance, proper development, people who cared more about them making a quick buck, it could have gone on forever. And Nintendo could have had a hard time going in there. Because one thing about you understand now, Nintendo approached Atari to make games for the NES because they knew who Atari was. They knew Atari was pretty big and knew how to make games. But when Atari kind of did that to them, they pushed them out of the way and did their own thing. So, same with Sega and Sony. Sony wasn't after Nintendo, it was after Sega. And when Sega didn't work with Sony, it kind of was the death knell for Sega. And I'll probably get to do a video about Sega as a console manufacturer. And that'd be a very decent one. That'd be my part 2. I'm going to wait about a week or 2 to get that one up and running. I want to get some ideas out of the way. I want to look at do some intel and research some stuff and get an idea of what it will take. This is a pretty good, interesting story. Come up next will be Sega, rise and fall of Sega as a console manufacturer. And maybe as a gaming creator, we don't know for sure how their stock's going right now, how they're going right now anyway. They could be out of the market too as well. And if any further news happen with GameStop, I'll let you guys know. Um, please stay tuned for more. This game history series will be to be continued. Up next will be the rise and fall of Sega as a console manufacturer. Not right now, but maybe next week, Friday or Saturday morning. I will deliver you guys my rundown of what happened and see what really went wrong with Sega and why they decided to pull out of the gaming console market. And the only thing about Sega, you'd be intrigued because it's a company that was ran practically into the ground from both sides. America and Japan both ran into the ground. It wasn't anything that one person could have done. It was doomed to failure. It was doomed to fail from day one. But I'll tell you guys that later on. Peace, love. First off, second of all, peace, love. Also, when you're down there putting a comment, as you're down there, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. Helps the channel a lot. Helps it keeps me motivated to keep doing this. I'll holler at you guys later. Peace out. See you guys later.